win the NBA championship. A team that AK has absolutely helped put together. Can he replicate that in Chicago? Man, listen, we'll talk about that and more right after this. Now, listen, if you aren't new to this channel, please like, share, subscribe. It's your boy PK with the Windy City Breeze. You're now rocking with us on the Chicago Bulls Breeze. Let's get in tune with it, man. Listen, the Chicago Bulls are now in an interesting situation because continuity and camaraderie and just being patient are all words that we don't want to associate with our particular team. No one wants to wait for the magic to happen. They want it right now. Unfortunately, you're gonna have to wait. And the Denver Nuggets are a good example of that. And the reason I say that is because one, everyone looks at where they are. They look at how Jokic, from an individual perspective, was a two-time MVP. He's one of the best centers to have play in his game. Probably top 10 to have ever played from the center position. And they look at all of that and they say, well, they've been dominant so long, and this, that, and the other. But for a long time, people were looking at Denver as not going anywhere. In fact, me and Pat have actually had this conversation last year. We were like, yeah, we don't see them actually doing it. And sure enough, the chips fell in the right way, and they're the 2023 NBA champions. They can't sit there. Well, now what we're not going to do is sit there and say, well, look who they play and this and the other. Stop that. That's a hater's mentality. Stop it. That's the type of person who sits there and blames everyone else for not reaching the same success as other people, or to say that they got lucky or this, that, and the other. Don't be that fool. Don't do that person. The Denver Nuggets won. They can't control who's in front of them, stuff like that. They were ready. They took advantage of the opportunity. And I think even with better teams in front of them, like the Boston Celtics, I think they would still won. So don't be that guy. But what it means for the Chicago Bulls is actually you can see the similarities between what AK was helping build there and to what we're building now. Jokic is a top 10 player all time. Guess what? Vucevic is a top 10 center in today's league. He is. Now, you can argue with your mama whether or not he is or he isn't, this, that, and the other. I've seen some people go as far as put DeAndre Ayton over him. I'm like, absolutely not. I've seen some people put Sabonis over him. I said comparable, but absolutely not. There's for him to be a top 6, it doesn't mean that he can't or he doesn't have deficiencies. Jokic has deficiencies. You just can't stop what he does. But Jokic is not the best big man defender. Like, no, he's not. Jokic would have a really tough time against a more mobile team who had bigger big men or were more size than the Miami Heat. He would have had a tough time. It is not his fault that he's 290 with a handle and no one could sit there and game plan around him because they just didn't have the talent. That's not his fault. But you can't tell me that Embiid doesn't do a lot of the things that Jokic does. In fact, the league told you that's why Embiid's MVP. Right? Yep. Nikola Vucevic, he may not be on the same tier as Jokic, but you can absolutely see why we would want him on your team. He's a double-double machine. For all the people to sit there and say, Vooch doesn't do this, shut up. Stop sitting there. Shut up. Don't do that. Vooch is a good player. Zach is a good player. They're all DeMar. They're top 10 or 15 at their position. We got 3 of them on our team. How many teams can say that? We may have to be patient. We may have to wait. We may have to do all the things that we don't want to do to actually get to where we want to be. And guess what? I am actually starting to change my narrative toward that. I'm starting to change my narrative on how we go about doing certain things, because I do believe that this is one of those opportunities for us to actually take a step back and really evaluate what we have here. We are much better than what we were last season. And the first season that Vooch got here, Zach wasn't there. Like, we're much better than that. And so I would love for us to give it continuity. We always had one person out. Patrick Williams missed the whole season. Lonzo missed the season. Zach was out for a couple games. He was coming back from injury. Like, we never had health on our side, and we may never have health 100% on our side. But we could be in healthier situations, and we haven't had that yet. We have to give that time to actually percolate and actually do what we need to do. We could learn a lot from that. Our players going out and actually developing their game, we can learn a lot from that. That's happening right now. You see the clips all online. These players are going out there and actually going out and improving their game. We can sit there and see that the organization has invested in a shooting coach. Again, I said this in another video on my channel. I didn't even know we didn't have a shooting coach. To know that we, as a storied franchise, didn't have a shooting coach in a league that's predicated on shooting at this point was wild to me. And apparently, we're not the only organization that doesn't have a shooting coach. Again, that's wild to me, considering where we are in the stream of time with things. That doesn't make sense to me, but that was the situation. Those things have changed. So now, with development, which is the case, Adam Silver, I've said this on every chance I've gotten. I'm gonna keep saying it. You're not going to have super teams constructed the same way anymore. Not as long as he's the commissioner. You're going to draft your talent. The talent you draft, you're going to develop. There are incentives. The way this new CBA works out, there are kind of imposed penalties. I don't want to call them penalties, but there are penalties or aprons there to discourage you from just going out there and trying to load your team up with the best talent. There's penalties there for you just think that you can just, flaunt whatever wealth you have and make this particular thing work. Now, there's still loopholes around that, but Adam Silver's going to a game of parity, and you're starting to see that. And so you're going to see more talent that's developed than you've seen in a long time. The decade of super teams where everyone was just running the team up, that's kind of over. That's kind of over. And it's not going to happen immediate, but by the 2024 season, 2024-2025 season, you're not going to see that anymore. This is the last run for that. So what that means is, for everyone who's sitting there saying, we need to get this person, be patient. Be patient. Rome wasn't built in a day. The Denver Nuggets didn't win in one season. It took them 4 to 5 to get to where they are now. 4 to 5. You have to be patient. It's not the sexy thing to say. It's not the thing that most fans want to say. It's not what you want to hear from someone who commentates on your fan base. I get it. We want it now. Guess what? Right now doesn't work. Do not let Instagram or anything else fool you. Real things that are worth it take time. Real people who have real money that didn't get it by scamming, guess what? It took time. It took time. It didn't happen in 1 year or 2. It took time. And for the people who does happen in 1 year, anecdotal. It doesn't happen like that for 99.9% of people. In fact, I've seen people with money. It took them time. They were late 30s, early 40s before it actually hit, and they was actually enjoying the fruits of their labor the way that most people want to do in their 20s, which is wild to think. It takes time. So guess what? It takes time to build a championship organization. Chicago Bulls didn't win championships when Jordan was drafted. He didn't come in 84 and 85. We were champions. It took almost a decade. And he went to 1991. It took 6-7 years. This is the other half of a decade. It doesn't happen right away. So it's not going to happen right away for AK. But I want to hear your thoughts, man. I want to hear your thoughts on what you glean from seeing that organization, what the different Nuggets have accomplished, things of that nature. Knowing that we have people from that organization here that's trying to replicate that. I want to hear your thoughts. Now, all of this doesn't mean that we excuse poor decisions and bad management. And I look at poor decisions from a roster perspective because AK is responsible for who stays and who goes. But I also look at management from a Billy Donovan perspective because he also manages who gets on the floor, what lineup, this, that, and the other. Both of those things could be true. We could be patient while we build something great, but we can also be critical of people who make stupid decisions in the process. Those things are not mutually exclusive. They can coexist at the same time. We can be that type of person. We can be even killing that way. And I think for the most part, the sensible fans are. But if you're not, if you got something to say, put it in the chat. Love to see you. Till next time.